Welcome to Travel with Sean. I'm Sean, and today we are in Rome, Italy, tracking down various historic and artistic sites.
The first place we're going on our tour is Castel Sant'Angelo, which means Castle of the Holy Angel. It was originally an imperial mausoleum and was converted into a military fortress in AD 401. By the 14th century, it was converted into a castle to serve as a papal fortress.
This here is a Castel Sant'Angelo, meaning the Castle of the Holy Angel. Originally, when it was built in the 130s AD, so between 130 and 135 AD, it was built by the order of Emperor Hadrian to be a mausoleum for him and his family. And after he died, several emperors after him were also buried here with their families. So it became the imperial burial site, imperial mausoleum. However, moving forward several centuries, in the medieval period, there was a terrible plague in Rome. Many people died, an epidemic. The Pope at the time said that he saw the Archangel Michael standing on the top of the castle, putting his sword back in the sheath, indicating an end to the plague. What do you know? The plague ended within a year after that. Everybody said it was a miracle, and they renamed the mausoleum Castel Sant'Angelo, Castle of the Holy Angel. This here is Arco dei Bianchi. It was built in 1278 to be an arch leading to the Vatican City. Now, merely a hole in the wall.
These are the ruins of buildings that were associated with Circus Maximus, a popular chariot racetrack constructed in the 6th century BC. But races and other entertainment in it ended in the 6th century AD. In the 12th century, the powerful Frangipani family built fortifications around the side of the former racetrack. One of the most well-known and best preserved structures built by the Frangipani family at Circus Maximus is the Torre della Moleta, or the Tower of the Grinding Wheel in English. This is allegedly where St. Francis of Assisi stayed during his last visit to Rome in the early 13th century. With this crowd of people standing around, you'd think something big was about to happen. But actually, everybody is gathered around to admire Trevi Fountain. This fountain attracts large crowds, especially during peak tourist seasons. Visiting early in the morning or late at night can offer a quieter experience. The history of Trevi Fountain takes us back to 1629 when Pope Urban VIII asked the famous architect and sculptor Gian Lorenzo Bernini to design a fountain at the junction of three roads which mark the end of Aqua Virgo, an important aqueduct in the city that was built in 19 BC. The three roads give the fountain its name. Trevi, in Italian, means three roads. Although Pope Urban VIII and Bernini both died without the fountain being built, Trevi Fountain was finally built in the 1760s when Italian architect Nicola Salvi worked from Bernini's design, creating his own design. Salvi's final design incorporates elements related to water and the Aqua Virgo. This design symbolizes the control and abundance of water. The central figure of Salvi's design is Neptune, the Roman god of the sea. It depicts him riding a chariot pulled by sea creatures. This imagery is connected to the importance of water sources like the Aqua Virgo in ancient Roman life. The name Aqua Virgo comes from two Latin words, aqua meaning water, and Virgo meaning virgin or young unmarried woman. This is based on a legend that in 19 BC, a young girl or a young woman led the men to a source of fresh water. While the fountain itself doesn't directly depict the young girl from the legend, the theme of water and its significance in Roman mythology and history is a central motive in the fountain's decorative elements. Trevi Fountain remains not only a breathtaking example of Baroque artistry, but a beloved symbol of Rome's artistic and cultural legacy that continues to draw crowds every day. Spain's embassy to the Holy See, which is the office of the Pope, gives the location its name, Piazza di Spagna, the Spanish Square. The Marian column here was erected in 1857 to commemorate the 1854 doctrine of the Immaculate Conception, which is the assertion that Mary was without sin since the moment of her conception. Every year on St. Mary's Day, the 8th of December, the Pope comes here to place a wreath of flowers on top of the statue's head.
This here, I believe the Italian name is Braccio Fontana, but it in English is called the Longboat Fountain. It was built in the 1620s by an architect who was very famous at the time called Pietro Bernini. But over time, his son, Gian Lorenzo Bernini, became even more famous.
Located next to the Longboat Fountain, the Spanish Steps were built in the early 18th century and financed through a fund in the will of a French diplomat to the Vatican who died more than 50 years earlier. The purpose of these 135 steps was to make it easier for anyone at Spain's embassy to the Vatican at the bottom of Pincian Hill to get to Trinità dei Monti Church at the top of the hill. To keep the steps in prime condition, they undergo restoration at least every 20 to 50 years. And now there are ordinances banning loitering, sitting, or eating on the Spanish steps. Dirtying them or damaging them could cost the offender 400 euros, over 430 US dollars. People love to stop and pose on the steps. Law enforcement doesn't seem concerned with people taking a moment to pose for photos, even though it's technically illegal. I climbed to the top to see the view and visit the church. The church at the top of the Spanish Steps is Trinità dei Monti Church, which was completed in 1585 and means Trinity on the Hill.
This church is the Trinità dei Monti, and which is the Trinity on the hill. And this area right next to it is the Piazza dei Monti, or the hilltop square. Now, this piazza and the church, this territory belongs to the French government. But you'll notice that it says right behind me here up ahead, the Piazza dei Monti, but also right next to that sign, you can see the fleur de lis, which are the two flowers on top and one below, which is the symbol of France.
Like many major cities in the world, parking downtown can be scarce. Sometimes you've gotta be creative. This person's car is so small that even parked vertically, it doesn't stick out from the rest of the cars. And the police don't mind. They've driven by. Porta Pinciana, or the Pincian Gate in English, was built in the 5th century to replace Porta Salaria, so named because the road that passed through it was Via Salaria. Its current name comes from its location near the Pincian Hill, one of the 7 hills of Rome. From Porta Pinciana, you can walk to the adjacent park, the Villa Borghese Gardens. Perhaps you'd like to rent one of these pedal carts as a fun way to explore the park. It's in this park that we find the Temple of Diana, which was built in the 2nd century BC. There has been significant restoration and preservation work done on it, especially in the 19th century, but the original temple remains standing. Diana was the Roman goddess of the hunt, the wilderness, and the moon. Just a few minutes from the temple, we find this interesting wooden structure. I don't know what it is, but leave me a comment if you do. This water clock was built in 1867 and displayed that year at an international technological and industrial exhibition held in Paris. Don't forget to fill up your water bottle. Piazza Navona was the site of the Stadium of Domitian, built by the Emperor Domitian in AD 86 for gladiator competitions. By the 5th century, the area was made into a public square. This was a market square in the 15th century. In the 16th and 17th centuries, the main attractions were added. The Fountain of the Moor and the Fountain of the Four Rivers. They attract thousands of visitors a day.
I'm at the Fontana dei Quattro Fiori, or the Fountain of Four Rivers. It was designed and built by Bernini, Gian Lorenzo Bernini, between 1647 and 1651, paid for by Pope Innocent X. But this fountain is located in Piazza Navona and was featured prominently in a scene in the 2009 movie Angels and Demons.
This fountain symbolizes the four major rivers of the world, as known in the 17th century: the Nile in Africa, the Ganges in Asia, the Danube in Europe, and the Rio de la Plata in the Americas. Each river has its own statue, and each statue has different attributes and expressions, reflecting the cultural and geographic characteristics of the area. Collectively, they represent the extent of the papal authority. The fountain was part of the redesign of Piazza Navona by Gian Lorenzo Bernini. The ancient Egyptian obelisk in the center of the fountain was originally placed in the piazza by Emperor Domitian. Bernini moved it to be the centerpiece of this fountain as a symbol of the dominance of the Christian church over pagan symbols. The placement of the fountain was to ensure a good view from the family residence of Pope Innocent X. Fontana del Moro, or Fountain of the Moor in English, features sea gods and a central figure engaged in a struggle with a dolphin. Originally designed by Giacomo della Porta in the 1570s, Bernini made his own contributions in the 1650s. While traditionally referred to as a Moor, meaning a Muslim of North African descent, some historians and other scholars suggest that the central figure could represent a mythological creature in allegorical form.
Thank you for watching. And as always, thank you for your support. Until next time, ciao. Bye bye.